For many Crowdsource the Truth viewers, Friday has become a highlight of the week. I know a lot of people have been anticipating this week's John Cullen investigation. You are fresh off of an amazing appearance at Larry Klayman's Third Continental Congress. Everybody was super impressed, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Good to see you, Jason. Thank you for the kind words. The Continental Congress was remarkable. I mean, the job that you did, the job that Larry did, remarkable.
Asher Anderson?
Yeah, Asher Anderson was very impressive. You know, coordinating it and then the things that he had to say, very, very impressive. Yeah. So all in all, I think it was an event that exceeded everybody's expectations.
Absolutely. And you know what? I didn't say anything about this to Larry, but I had a high expectation that from a technical standpoint, it might have failed. What we attempted to do was extremely ambitious. And like you, it came out. Actually, Larry said this to somebody as we were leaving. He said, it came out better than I expected. And I said, you and me both, Larry.
He has no idea. I mean, I love Larry. I love him, but he has no idea what you're doing. I mean, I could see that you had a shot set up over your shoulder where we could see all the different control monitors you were running there. And you had like 7 or 8 different things in front of you. And what people don't understand is getting all that stuff to work together is not simple. And to live stream it with the content from people coming in from Zoom and all over the place, that was crazy. And the fact that you were able to do it ad hoc is somewhat remarkable. I mean, I don't know that there's many people in the world that could pull that off. So tip of the hat to you, my friend. Big deal.
Thank you,
John. That was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you.
And
I just want to remind
Asher,
people, John, that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Asher was great.
Dynamite. So Larry's got to be pretty proud. He really should be. Yeah.
Asher's a remarkably capable and intelligent young man who's got a great future ahead of him. And, you know, what I want to let John E. Hoover fans know is that the YouTube channel is in full effect, live streaming, everything is going. People can subscribe to the John E. Hoover channel on YouTube. This is John's main channel that John controls. You can watch the live stream simulcasts right there. Hello to the 71 people who are with us right now. You can also tune in to John's broadcasts. He's got his Hypothetically Speaking podcast, The Bedtime Stories. These are all super interesting, and people who want to learn more about John and the information that he's been bringing forward, this is a great channel to subscribe to. John, everybody also knows that you and I are doing our weekly sponsor exclusive shows, and it's super important for people who enjoy the information and enjoy watching to become sponsors, both on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen or patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and Subscribestar and Patreon/Crowdsource the Truth. This is the only way that John and I make money. We don't have corporate sponsors. We're not having some big pharmaceutical company or Exxon or whoever come in here and slap down a wad of cash, primarily because that just always enables the sponsor to have, control over the content. And in order to keep this information for the people, by the people, and of the people, it's important that people become sponsors on Subscribestar or Patreon. So, John, you've prepared for us today a very interesting topic about hot spots, Koch's postulate, and a bunch of other stuff. I don't even know who this guy Koch is or what he postulated about, but I think that this was Dr. Andrew Kaufman was talking about that. It has something to do with identifying the virus or whatever. What are we talking about today?
Right. So this whole Koch's postulate thing seems to be a linchpin in a number of arguments. And so I thought it would be important to take a look at it and say, okay, so what is it? Let's break it down and let's look at, has Koch's postulate been met? Has it not? And if so, what does that mean? What are the ramifications of that? So we're going to explore that in the show. We're going to look at hotspots and all this other stuff. Yep, you got something up there. What do you got?
Well, I got a dumb question. Is this guy, are the Koch brothers related to this guy?
I don't know. We're going to dig into him. We're going to find out about his background and, who he's married to, where he's born, when he's from, where he came from. But that's what we're going to dig into in the show is Koch's postulate. And there's 4 of them. We're going to see, what has or hasn't been met, why it's important, and what does it mean.
He has 4 postulates?
Right. And so we're going to go into that later in the show.
I have another dumb question.
5 postulates. I don't know. Whatever the hell it is. We'll figure that out.
What is a
postulate?
Yeah.
Right.
Suggest or assume the existence, fact, or truth of something as a basis for reasoning, discussion, or belief. So it's basically like a theory.
I think it's more like a thesis. So a theory is a little looser, right? So there's a difference between a hypothesis and a thesis. And we're getting to the point now where we should be talking about the differences between hypotheses and thesis, right? And the hypothesis is more of the working thing, right? So for example, in the Vegas shooting, you begin with a hypothesis that Stephen Paddock shot everybody from the window. And then you go to the window and you pull the curtain back and the glass isn't broken.
Right.
And so that hypothesis goes out the window very quickly, even though the window isn't broken. Okay, so the hypothesis goes out the window.
It's inherently a supposition or a proposed explanation on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation. That's a great definition.
Right. Now we look up a thesis. What is the thesis? And the thesis is what you get to at the end.
Yeah, that's good. They seem to also have the same kind of derivation in terms of the language there, but it's a statement or theory that is put forward as a premise to be maintained or proved.
So one is a thesis, the other is a hypothesis, like a hypodermic. So one is the under thesis, the hypothesis, and then the other is the thesis. So we begin with... Right. So you begin with sort of this hypothesis, this under theory, and then you go and do all this research. And then 3.5 years later, you sit down and start writing a book that is your thesis.
And a theory is a principle set to explain phenomena already supported by data.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm at in both of these cases, in both Las Vegas and the coronavirus pandemic. I'm at a state now where I'm prepared to prevent the thesis, I'm prepared to present the thesis. So it's no longer a hypothesis. We have enough data now that we know what's happening. So let's go through the deck and I'll show everybody what we got. We got some good stuff for tonight's show. Of course, you have to say the Pledge of Allegiance. We promise not to claim or pledge. Let's go to the next page. I forget the words. Right, we promise not to claim, we promise not to pledge, we promise not to claim or produce content that there's nothing here, right? We don't do any of this stuff. Okay? No. So we're well aware and we're well within we don't make any of these claims. There's none of this. We don't do this.
YouTube has made a special consideration for Fauci where people should just get over it. Take the vaccine.
Right. Yeah, we're going to get over it tonight. Yeah, he's going to get over it. You're going to see how we're going to get over it tonight. All right, we're also going to take a little look at Hot or Not. So when we talk about hot spots, I don't know if you guys remember before Tinder.
App?
Yeah, before Tinder, there was Hot or Not. And this was the original swipe left, swipe right app for dating. And what we're going to do is go to the next slide, if you would. We're going to take a look at the map. And we have a new segment on the show called Hot or Not. And because now there's Tinder, so nobody even knows what the hell this is. So we're going to
Barry
swipe.
Diller, who just announced that Hollywood is dead. So he's like a year and a half behind me.
No, he sold it. They sold Tinder and Match.com to somebody else. It was his.
He's probably still on the board or something. But the point is, John, he announced at this is weird. Sorry to be non sequitur here, but I was talking to the limited number of friends of mine in Hollywood who I'm still in touch with. there was some event, I even forget the name of it, but it's like a Bilderberg for Hollywood people, and they put it in Variety like, oh, here's this again, Jeff Bezos and Barry Diller. And I sent it to a couple of friends of mine who are connected in that kind of stuff, and I was like, have you ever heard of this thing? And they were like, never. And it's like,
I mean,
when
the
they
summer
started,
camp in Idaho, the thing this week in Idaho, because that's a thing. Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Well, what's his name? Diller said Hollywood is dead. So he's about a year and a half behind me. I would expect 2023 he'll announce financial fraud within the von Furstenberg Diller Foundation and his association with the Clinton Foundation. But we won't hold our breath for that.
No. All right. Well, we're going to just run with the hot or not concept, and we're going to swipe left, swipe right, and figure out where is it hot, where is it not. Okay, so where's the virus going away and where is it not? And we're going to look at that tonight on the show. We have another new segment on the show. Really excited about this segment. Everybody's been talking about this. This segment's called Oops, Got a Mop. And this is where we're going to look at viral accidents that have taken place. So this is it's a fun segment.
Who's talking about that? I never heard about it before right now.
What? Accidental releases of viruses from BSL?
Oops, got a mop. That's a new thing.
That's a new thing, man. Everybody's talking about it. The other thing about it, though, if you go back up to the graphic for a second on Oops, Got a Mop, that is coronavirus.
Oh, really? Under an electron microscope? It looks like a computer-animated simulation of it.
It's colored using a certain technique. But, again, one of our patrons is an electron microscope technician. And he said, yep, that's it. Yeah. Wow. That's it. Now, that's high-end stuff, though. Yeah. So that's the little red dots of the coronavirus. Emerging.
I'm sure you're going to get to this, and I'm sorry to jump the gun, but didn't the whole Koch's postulate question come up because Dr. Andrew Kaufman was saying that nobody has ever seen this?
That's why we're going to talk about that tonight. So we're going to talk about Koch's postulate and the ramifications of it versus what do we see under the microscope, right? So we're going to talk about all that. So this is one example of this is coronavirus under the microscope. This is what it looks like. The little red dots, it's emerging from the cell. So this is after the cell's been infected, and now it's coming out of the cell and emerging. Yeah. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, now, so this is part of Oops, Got a Mop. And this is a great article. This is exciting. Wow. This is what was the date on this? And
January 4th, 2015.
So January 4th, 2015, and this was printed in the Fredericksburg, what on top? The Frederick News Post in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And the title is Multiple Researchers Potentially Exposed to Biological Warfare Agent at U.S. AMRID. That's where Dr. Judy worked.
Right.
So when Dr. Judy tells you she's been infected with so many things she can't even count them anymore, ta-da, this is it. This is what happens.
Isn't biological warfare technically supposed to be against the Geneva Convention or something?
I wasn't there. They didn't invite me to the convention, so I wasn't really checking my notes.
We didn't get the agenda.
No. Maybe they'll invite me next time. But
you could appear by Zoom.
Yeah. So part of this new segment on the show, Oops, Got a Mop. So we're going to talk about that one. Here, this is also kind of relevant because last week we were talking on the show about the myocarditis stuff and how many cases there were of it and all that. And if you zoom out a little bit, the lower right-hand corner shows who the contact is at the CDC, who's in charge of all this monkey business and keeping track of this. That's her, Lauren J. McCarthy at 888-INFO-FDA. So she's the FDA contact for all this. But if you go to the next page, what's exciting is we were talking about that meeting and what was happening in the meeting. And, well, they did put out an update. So the FDA has released an update as of June 25th. So I guess this happened right before the Continental Congress. And this is a warning about the things that we were talking about. Well, I want the audience to read it, go to the FDA, but this is talking about the myocarditis.
Right.
Okay.
They are putting a
So,
warning label on the vaccine, right?
not sure about that, and that's why I want the audience to dig into this themselves, and I don't want to make any recommendations or suggestions or claims, right? So I
Sorry, it's
just want the audience.
revisions to the fact sheet. That's where the warning is. So that's a label that's inside the package that is the first thing to be thrown away before they inject it into somebody.
Sounds good to me. I can't be certain of this stuff. I'm not, again, I don't know about what's the insert, what's not the insert, but it seems to me like it's relevant. All right, we have another new segment that I'm real excited about. This new segment's called Does Anyone Know Math? And in this segment, we're going to see, because, this was one of the, if you guys saw the pandemic episode of South Park, the teachers don't want to teach. So the teachers stay home. And the cops come into the school, and the cops are trying to teach. And the cop standing up in the room, and they got their guns on and everything. And the cop says to the kids, "Does anyone know math?" Because the cops can't teach math. So they're looking at the kids, and it's very much a Ben Stein moment from Bueller. And you had Ben Stein at the Continental Congress. And this was a very Ben Stein moment in the pandemic special where the cop is standing up there. Does anybody know math? Anyone? It was hysterical. So tip of the hat to John, Ben Stein. That was great seeing him too.
You look at this photograph, I mean, this cartoon, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not really that much different than what an actual school classroom would look like right now. But in cartoon form, it just highlights how ridiculous this is to put these little kids in plastic boxes with them. They're like prisoners.
They're brilliant. I really think that these two guys, Matt Stone, Trey Parker, are this generation's George Carlin. They're that brilliant. They're that brilliant. What ends up happening is Cartman comes in 10 seconds. Cartman comes in, creates a scene, and the cops shoot Token, who's the only black kid in the class. And then but then they call it a COVID death. And the kids are like, "How do you call that a COVID death? You shot him." And the cops are like, "Yeah, but we wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for COVID. So it's a COVID death." It's hysterical. I mean, it's so brilliant. I can't explain how genius this cartoon is. Yeah. So does anyone know math? So this is a segment of the show where we're going to do a little bit of math together to see if anybody knows math. We're going to talk about comorbidities. And according to the CDC, it says that for 5% of the deaths, COVID-19 is the only thing on the death certificate. Now, the guys over at Whatfinger have continued to report that it's 6% since you and I reported that it's changed. Yeah, Whatfinger's got it wrong. Don't bother going over there. They've got it wrong. So, they're saying it's 6%, it's 5%, and they've been saying it's 6% for the last 3 months. So they've been wrong for 3 months. So let's take a look at the real numbers. Let's go to the next page. Let's go down one. All right, so 5% of that bottom number down there. What's that little number in that lower left-hand corner with the red? What's that? The lower left-hand corner. There you go. So 597,426 is the official CDC number of people who've died with coronavirus as of right now. And we're going to take a look at what is 5% of that number. Okay, that's math, right?
Yeah.
So this is, does anyone know math, right? Does anyone know math? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Zoom out a little bit.
It's just a matter of having a calculator, really.
All right, so we're going to take 597,426, and we're going to multiply by 5%, and that comes out to 29,871. Mm-hmm. That's about how many people died from just SARS-CoV-2 in the United States. Now, let's do some more math, shall we? Because math is fun. Math is elemental, right? Let's go to the next slide. All right. Now, this is a slide I put together for the Continental Congress. I showed this at the Continental Congress.
Mm-hmm. CDC info. Deaths by age group.
Right. So here we're looking at
everybody.
45 and younger versus 45 and older. And younger than 45, there's not even 17,500 people. So, less than 17,000. So now if we go to the next slide and we zoom out a little bit, we're going to take that number and we're going to multiply that by 5%.
Oh, wow, right. But how do we know that the 5% wasn't all in these younger people or 5% all in these older people?
We don't. The CDC says on average. So in the statement that was highlighted up above, it says on average, 5% have just COVID. So these are averages. So what this means is about 800, 850 people.
Even if it's 2x.
Give or take. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Even if it's 2x, right.
1,600 max,
Right.
let's say.
Your
It's not a
video
lot.
just froze at my end. I just lost my
Mine?
video of you. Yeah, froze.
Of me, my camera
Your-
of me or the screen share?
Your
Yeah, the whole
your
thing
feed
froze.
to me. Yeah, your feed
Yeah,
to me.
I see that. Okay, stand by 1 second. I'm going to restart. That's strange. That's the backup computer. That's the first time that's done that, but we'll
Yeah,
bring
that's
that
never
back here.
Yeah, that's never happened.
Maybe, you know what? Because I had the air
I'm
conditioner
going to look at
off,
the
it's
chat.
gonna be
You do
hot.
that. I'm going to look at the chat and answer some questions. All right. So I'm in.
Talk
I'm
about
in
hot or not, the thing
Yeah.
does feel a little bit hot.
do what you're going to do.
Restart.
All right. While Jason's doing that, I'm going to look in the chat room and answer some questions for you guys. I'm in the John E. Hoover chat, and let's see what we got. The most recent chat I see is from Dorothy, and it says my math skills are poor, but I'm learning, and then some. And you'll see something from Dorothy in a few minutes. Notice how many broadcasters and mainstream media talking heads are stealing and using Johnny Hoover data. Thank you,
Yeah.
Bailey.
A
Thank you, Bailey.
lot.
Yeah, we've got Maria Bartiromo, we've got Tucker Carlson, we've got Dan Bongino, Brett
Brett.
Weinstein. Yep,
Yeah.
everybody. So that's good news. It's good when people steal from you, right?
Well, they say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but I would think that those people who are using the information becoming sponsors would be a very sincere form of flattery. Tucker Carlson and Maria Bartiromo could go to subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen or patreon.com/IamJohnCullen. Now, yeah. Okay, hang on. We got some weird things happening now. This is the sausage making process a little bit here for people.
The video's working. I had a little double audio, but I think we're back in
It's
business.
fixed. Give me
Yeah,
a second.
Yeah, looks
Okay.
good.
Whoops.
Looks fab.
Okay.
It's work.
You're back.
All
And you
right.
have the screen share?
Yeah, I see. Right now, I see the chat is scrolling. I see whatever's on the TV behind you is what I'm seeing in my feed.
No, I think it's this. Right?
There you go.
You see your
Gotcha.
deck now?
Yeah, perfect. All right.
Back.
So this is where we were, which is people younger than 45 years old in the United States. How many of them have died with just SARS-CoV-2 on their death certificate? And according to the CDC, the answer is less than 1,000. About. All right. So this is why when you're talking about Delta variants and Lambda variants and all this crap, you don't get my attention. I'm absolutely immune to it.
The conversation, you mean, not claiming to
I'm
be
not immune to the
from
virus. How
No,
the hell would I know? No,
because
but I'm
YouTube would throw us off if you said something like that.
Well, no, I could be immune to it if I've already had it, right? If I had it,
Well,
and
we
I
don't even
tested
know if
positive for
that's
the-
correct. That's something that Fauci would. Well, we believe China, but we don't know.
That's why we need a third vaccine from Pfizer. All right. So again, as we continue to do the math, now we go look at school-age kids. So this is 5 to 18. So this is kindergarten to high school seniors in the United States. Less than 300 are dead with COVID. But if we do the math on that and we say, all right, well, how many of them died with just SARS-CoV-2?
Wow.
It's about a dozen.
It's less than one school bus.
Depends. Well, I was on the short bus. We couldn't get that. We couldn't get that many of us on
With
there.
the
So
helmet?
hell yeah, of course.
Okay.
Red, white, and blue, baby. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right. Cases of the flu and other seasonal viruses fell from 4,800 a month in 2019 to just 12 a month last year. Well, it sounds like my white paper might be in the running for Nobel Prize of the decade. I mean, they're just confirming my research everywhere. And, I published that in October 2020. So cases of the flu from 4,800 a month to just 12. Isn't that a miracle? Isn't that just remarkable?
Yeah.
You got it. It's almost like, as horrible as coronavirus was, if it cured influenza forever,
not that bad.
That's some price to pay, right? That's a price. You got to pay the price. But maybe it's gone forever now. We don't need influenza vaccines ever again. Who knows? All right, we got another new segment on the show that's really exciting. This is a new segment called the Pipe Hitters.
Well, what is that about?
The Pipe Hitters. So the Pipe Hitters is something
Smoking
that Mike
weed?
Pompeo. Well, no, Mike Pompeo brought this up, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to bring some pipe hitters in," and I'm like, "What the hell
is he talking about?
Right, and I'm like, "Mike,
what is he, in Goodfellas?
Are you sure you know what you're talking about here when you're talking about pipe hitters? Because now I got a whole new segment because of Mike Pompeo." Let's go to the next slide.
What
so now
is
we
a
got a new
pipe hitter?
segment. Mike Pompeo says he's going to call in for pipe hitters.
Oh my God!
And I'm like,
that
Mike,
should get him thrown off of YouTube.
what the
It's
hell
inciting
are
violence.
you talking about? This isn't Pulp Fiction, Mike.
Right.
You're not Marcellus Wallace.
Blowtorch and pliers. Right.
This isn't you're not Marcellus Wallace.
Huh.
That's not the gimp behind you. Pipe. Do you know what pipe hitters means, Mike?
Well,
I don't
no.
think he does. So
What
now
does it
we've
mean?
got a whole new segment called the Pipe Hitters, right?
But what is it?
Go back up. Go back up a slide.
It's these guys.
So this is our new segment, right? So this is from the Mac. This is from the Mac Daddy Ball, and there's a whole culture of
Pimps
the
up,
Mac.
hose down. That
The whole Mac
documentary
Daddy scene in Detroit and all that, and Chicago, and so now we got a whole segment on the pipe hitters. So when Mike Pompeo says he's calling for pipe hitters, right? Go to the next slide. Mike Pompeo puts out the call, says, "I need some pipe hitters," right? Okay, good, nice work, Mike.
Crazy.
Sorry, Mike, you're a public figure. I get to do this, and it's cool. Let's go to the next slide. You're a public figure, Mike. Oh, speaking of pipe hitters,
Right.
oh, the president of Haiti's dead. How the hell did that happen? Let's go to the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, gee whiz. The population of Haiti at 11.5 million. Haiti didn't have 500 people dead from coronavirus.
Huh.
Oh, why is that important? Let's go to the next slide. If we compare Haiti and the population of Haiti and how many people died in Haiti to all the states in the United States that have about 11.5 million or fewer people, how many are dead?
Well,
How many are dead?
20,000 in Ohio,
Keep going.
21,000 in Georgia, 13,000 North Carolina, Michigan, New Jersey, Virginia, Washington.
Whoa. Michigan, 21,000. New Jersey, 26,500.
I bet you got a lot of pipe hitters in Michigan.
Well, the question now is, all these states have fewer people than Haiti. Now go back up to Haiti. Haiti's got how many dead? Not 500.
462.
Okay, so now let's go to the next slide.
We hadn't really spoken too much about Haiti before that. But wait a minute,
wait,
before
wait,
we go
back
off.
up. Yeah, go back
that
up.
Haiti
Go back up.
president.
Yeah. Go back up to the president of Haiti. Now, what might have been the problem here? He's got how many people? 11.5 million.
Yeah.
So that means, according to Bill Gates, he needs 23 million doses of vaccines at how much per?
I don't know. $3?
Okay. He says, no, $3. What are you kidding? You think Pfizer is selling these for $3 to the government?
They say it's free when you ask Joe Biden. I don't think
Well,
that's
it's
correct.
free to you. Yeah, it's free to you, but
Not
the
even.
government is paying Pfizer and Moderna for them. Does
How
anybody
much
in the
per?
audience know? I mean, that's the magic question right now. How much is the government paying Moderna? How much is the government paying Pfizer? If you know, put it in the chat. We have no idea. I don't know. You don't know, but
Here,
we'd love to
Google.
know.
How much per dose? It says 1950 a dose, according to fiercepharma.com. And it's fierce over there.
Meaning
So
that's
maybe
what the
they know.
government is paying?
1950? I mean, they're buying it in bulk, right? So I guess there's a discount.
Bill
Pfizer eyes higher
Rhodes is
price.
saying
Oh,
40.
man. Higher price after the pandemic wanes. This is from February 21. They're saying
I see
1950 per dose.
Bill Rhodes is telling me 40, but he's not citing anything. So I see 40.
This says
Oh, there you go.
Pfizer
There
is
you go.
charging $19.50 per dose, which is not a normal
43.
price. Typically
D is
get for
telling me
vaccine
43.
$150 or $175 per dose.
So pandemic pricing, which is exciting, right? Pandemic pricing, which means, right? So Randy had pandemic pricing in the pandemic special.
I think you're saving 16 cents on a hot dog, so that's
It's
good.
fabulous. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go back to our deck. So now you want to know maybe why this guy's dead?
Yes.
He doesn't have 500 dead. How many vaccines does he need to buy?
Maybe none.
Uh-oh. Next president, how many vaccines you want to buy?
All of them.
23 million? That's the right answer. That's a right answer, isn't it? He's got 11.5 million people. He doesn't have 500 dead. And he was like the guy from Tanzania. He was like, get the hell out of here. I don't need that crap. And now he's dead. Now, if you look at Africa, I sent you something in the middle of the week. 4 leaders in Africa are dead already. It's not just the guy
you
from.
Sent me that.
Yeah, right. It's not just the guy from Tanzania. So there's 4 major leaders from African nations that have died in the last 18 months. And now the president of Haiti is assassinated.
You know, I saw an article that I haven't been able to find again, that the CIA director made some trip to like Colombia or something like that. And then some of these foreign agents that they have captured, they're saying we're Colombian.
Well, I heard the audio. I heard the audio, and the guy who's yelling out DEA, DEA is from the South. That's a redneck. That guy's from Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. Oh, yeah, I've heard the audio, and he's yelling DEA, DEA. That's a redneck. That's not a Haitian.
Wait a minute. So here's Brazil Wire Armed Forces. Right, it's not opening now for some reason, but the cached Google thing is telling us that it says CIA director makes secret visit to crumbling Bolsonaro. That's going to be Brazil.
Yeah, we're talking about Haiti, not Brazil.
Brazilian capital, Brasilia. CIA activities in Colombia, slow news day. Oh, here. Somebody says super weird. This must have been it. CIA director was in Colombia on a delicate mission right before. This is it. So I don't know what this source is, Orinoco Flow, but this says, highest official in the United States Central Intelligence Agency, William Burns, arrived in Colombia to participate in a delicate mission in terms of security as part of the cooperation between the two countries. Colombian ambassador in Washington, Francisco Santos, reported on the arrival of the CIA director. However, Santos did not want to provide additional details because the CIA is supposed to be secret. But
supposed
that's
to be
interesting.
Secret. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for when they work on television. All right, so let's go to the next slide. That part's, that's the hard secret to keep.
Is tell anybody.
No. All right, so if you're the prime minister or president of a nation that's not one of the top 20, buy the vaccines. That's a hint. It's not a recommendation, right? It's not a claim, right? It's not guidance, but it is a hint. All right, now in New York.
Next week, John, YouTube will add a new thing to the Pledge of Allegiance that you're not allowed to make videos alleging that African leaders have been assassinated because of COVID vaccine purchases?
That was natural. That was a death that was naturally occurring.
Not a COVID death.
No, that was a naturally occurring. That was not an assassination. It was, and then we'll talk about equity. All right, so Andrew Cuomo seeks to flatten the curve on gun violence.
But not in Haiti.
No. He's going to flatten the curve on gun violence. Okay, and that's very important. He says it's an emergency. He's declaring a state of emergency. And so on the John E. Hoover channel, my little community thingamajig, I posted the next slide. No, you don't have to go there. But I posted this meme. And the meme shows how many homicides there have been in New York this past year versus road accidents versus how many people just fell down, died.
You created this, right?
Yeah. So
that's great.
So the notion here is, why is he so maniacally obsessed about the smallest problem?
Well, maybe because he can't flatten the curve on poisoning people.
But I mean, wouldn't that be like a great goal for him to set? Is that we've got, way more people dying from poisonings than from gunshots. Maybe we got to figure out.
Remain closed.
Is there something we can do about something? Whoever's drinking Drano, we got to stop it. But meanwhile, influenza is 16,500 people. All right, and he's worried about homicides. Aren't the people with the influenza that haven't been given the proper therapeutic treatment, isn't that homicide? Maybe we should move those into the homicide category, and it's homicide by negligence, negligent homicide, rather than homicide by guns. He's killing way more people with negligent homicide than through active gunfire by a factor of what? A lot.
Well, he's more concerned with observing
so you can
staff
find
members
these
eat
memes.
Sausage.
Let's show people where they can find these memes. If you go to the John E. Hoover channel to the community tab, this is where I post this stuff because I'm not on Twitter. They kicked me off of Twitter, and I'm not going to play that game anymore. So if you go to the community tab on the channel, I post these memes, and the idea is you guys can put these on Twitter, you can put them on Facebook, and I size them vertically, accordingly. So that's a post just telling people the video's coming. That's a post from yesterday, and then here's one of the memes. Now, when you click on the meme, you get to see the whole thing, right? You get to see the whole image.
That's good.
There's a whole bunch of those in there. You just keep scrolling. It's a rolling feed like Twitter. It's just crappy because it's from Google.
Well, but you can also interact with people in the chat there. And I mean, right now, this John E. Hoover channel is one of the best places to get the chat. And it's, way more subscribers than any of the currently canceled Crowdsource the Truth channels.
Well, again, I'm only here because of you. And hopefully we'll get some of those Crowdsource the Truth channels back once somebody over there wakes up to. Again, like I'm sitting here with a community strike for a video that's not even on YouTube. I mean, it's like they're just making things up. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So
there's one more thing to mention, though, John. I think I forgot to tell people. I have also created the John Cullen Investigates channel. So people, there were 800 there a minute ago. So I don't know why somebody would choose to unsubscribe. You can also watch the simulcasts of the live streams there. And you can go back in time and see. I'm going to add more of these, but I have so many of these channels that I'm trying to populate that right now there's just a few of our original videos, but the idea is to eventually fill this up with all of the John Cullen appearances on Crowdsource the Truth. And I've also tried to link related channels down here. So if people are looking for some of the other channels, that's a good place to find them.
Yeah, I've done the same. All right, let's go. We've got a couple more minutes. All right, so we were talking about Cuomo, and I think Letitia Adams is the Attorney General in New York. Letitia James, okay. And she's the Attorney General in New York, and she's trying to prosecute him. And the thing is that, again, before she rushes into the courtroom, I wish she had the proper evidence. What she seems to be lacking is the evidence where the New York State Department of Health stopped reporting on influenza. Now, I have all this evidence in my possession. She does not.
John, did you tell everybody about your new program where when people become sponsors on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen or patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, you've got that vault of information, or am I letting a cat
Well,
out of the bag?
I have a new promotion that we're going to announce tonight. So I did the vault promotion was at the end of the year. So I put all of last year's stuff into like a zip file and was sending it to the people who subscribed at a certain level. And it was like multiple WeTransfer downloads, and it was a lot of work. Let me show you what I got here. Hang on. So what I did was I put together 10 of these.
And it's important that people know that this is exclusive for sponsors of Subscribestar or Patreon/IamJohnCullen.
Yeah. I haven't even figured out how we're going to do it yet. But what's in here is effectively 12 DVDs of video, plus all the Crowdsource the Truth decks from January to the end of June. So for the first 6 months of this year, every one of the presentations, plus executive orders and HR this and, other reference material, it's all on here. 12 DVDs of video, every video. So the bedtime stories and all that stuff from January to the end of June. So this is the first 6 months of this year. There's only 10 of them, and I'm going to autograph them. I'm going to sign them with a Sharpie JC, and you're going to get one of 10, and that's it.
So additions.
Yeah,
Better than Hunter
so that's
Biden.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about this when we get to our patron only thing. So this is really designed for high level patrons. So we'll talk more about this when we get to our patron only hour. So yeah, going back to New York and the Department of Health, the point is I've got all this evidence of New York. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. New York just stopping their reporting on influenza right in the midst of a terrible outbreak. That's negligence. You can't just do that, right? New little kitten wanders into the house. You don't stop feeding the dog. You can't do that. And that's what they did. So let's go to the next slide. Right. I think we got to wrap up soon, right? We got a couple more minutes.
You got about 8 minutes.
All right. So the thing that makes the whole thing super, super creepy is when you realize that when New York and New Jersey stopped reporting, when Michigan stopped reporting on influenza.
Oh, because maybe Cuomo is the head of the Governors Association and went on the yacht with what's her name, Whitmer?
I don't know, but the coincidence that it stops in week 11 through 14, not just in New York and New Jersey and Michigan and California.
This is Ireland and the Dominican Republic.
Right, and Belgium and Switzerland.
And Japan.
And right. But Japan
is Kaizening it out.
Right, exactly. They had to. They couldn't do it any other way. You know that about them, right? It's the only country where if you had to predict it, that would be the one. So, right? Everybody else, done. Nobody cares.
I appreciate Japan. Have you ever been? You've been to Japan.
No, I haven't, but I'm dying to go to Okinawa. Oh, my God.
I was there months before Fukushima.
Oh, I want to go to Okinawa really badly.
Before
so stay tuned. Stay tuned. All right, here's another one of the memes. This is kind of a doozy, and this is based on something we discussed last week. This is, hey, Fauci, look what I found. And if you go to the next slide, I zoomed in on it for you on the next slide. That's the bottom of the meme.
Oh, yeah.
And this is showing what the current outbreak looks like in deaths versus what the Spanish flu looked like 100 years ago. In Portland.
It's so similar.
It's so similar. So the meme says, hey, Fauci, that's just a weird coincidence, right? Tony? Right? Tony?
Well,
Tony?
We got no flu.
Right. All right. Then I did a bedtime story, and I read this, which was torture. This is an article from Time Magazine called The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign that saved the 2020 election. And this took an hour to read, and the audience has said this is one of the scariest things I've read. And I've read about Dr. Kawaoka and Crimson Contagion. I've read about Operation Sea Spray, and the audience is saying this is one of the scariest things they've ever heard.
It's really sad that these QAnon dopes are immortalized in a photograph or a artist's, whatever this is, with the President of the
Wait a
United States.
second. But wait. That's you and Charles. I see you and Charles right there on the
Where?
right. Right there.
I don't think we made it in. I don't think we
I'm
made it.
joking. All right, let's go to the next slide. So the point is, we do this bedtime story, and everybody thinks it's crazy. All right, let's wrap up on this. If you zoom out a little bit, I want to share with everybody, this is another new segment that's really exciting, which is where I just oversimplify things. All right, so in tonight's show, I'm going to oversimplify America's problem and provide a good metaphor for Wuhan and China all in the same illustration. That's it. This is the problem with America.
Fishing?
No. The problem with America is that that's $25. $25.99. All right. Now, this is from Walmart. Now, the question is, where in America can I find a factory that can make this kit for me at a wholesale level so that I can sell it at retail for $25.99? Can I get a telescoping fishing rod with a reel with all the hooks, the little rubber things, the little kit? Where is the factory in the USA that's going to make this for me so that I can sell it at retail for $25?
It seems like it should be like $200 or something, or at least $150.
Go to the next slide.
There's a lot of things like that, televisions and things. How can they be so cheap?
All right, so zoom out a smidge. So here it shows you how many, you get 10 hooks, you get 4 worms, you get a crayfish, you get this, you get this, you get the swivels, it comes with the line, it comes with the reel, and all that's $25. All right, go to the next slide.
And free delivery.
Free delivery too. All right, so problem number 1, my oversimplification, this is the new segment, oversimplification of the world's problems. Where can I get this made for $5 to $10 wholesale in the U.S.?
Nowhere.
Right.
Alibaba.
But I go on Alibaba.
Oh my God, is it $7?
I can get this stuff made all day long. Pick a city in China, and I can get this stuff made.
Wow.
Okay. And if I buy 100 units, they'll call it the John and Jason fishing kit and put our logo on there.
Huh.
All right. For $7. Now, where am I going to get that for $7 in the United States?
Wait a minute. This reel with all its parts and moving everything.
It's $3.
$3?
Right. Welcome to China.
You can't get a coffee in New York City for $3.
Right. That's the problem. Where am I going to do this in the United States? And America, but America wants a $25 fishing kit. And America wants a $5 chicken. Now, if you want a $5 chicken, we're going to have to raise the chicken in a cost-effective manner. If you don't mind paying $9 for the chicken, I'll read the chicken a bedtime story. All right.
Even $9 seems low.
I'll put the chicken in a cardigan, right? I'll take. If you're willing to pay $15 for a chicken, I'll sing its songs, right? But if you guys only want to pay $5 for a chicken, you should see what we got down in Arkansas. All right, down at Tyson. You guys, you want your $1 cheeseburger? All right, that's what you want. That's what we're going to make for you. All right, let's go to the next slide because we got problem number 2.
Somebody noticed that the price was $7.33, John.
There you go. The Masons are in China. All right, what's problem number 2? Problem number 2 is, Jason, what happens if we actually catch a huge freaking bass with this thing? What's the problem?
I don't know. It'd probably snap like a twig.
No. We actually catch it. We get it in the boat. Now we got the fish.
Yeah.
What's the problem now? Let's go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide.
A knife?
Do we need to send the fish back to China? No.
No.
But they made the rod. Wait, go back up. They made the rod and reel. The rod and reel was made in China. So don't they get to keep the fish? Oh, all right. So let me show you the metaphor. Just because they made the coronavirus in China, who paid for it?
Yeah, Fauci.
So whose is it?
Hmm.
I want to keep the fish. I don't want to send the fish back to China just because the rod and reel were made in China. They don't get to keep the fish.
Can you imagine how much that would stink if you mail the fish to China?
I'm about to. I'm about to mail a fish to China. So the idea here is just because the Chinese are doing what they were asked to do for $3.7 million doesn't mean they're culpable. We paid them to do it. If we paid them to make the virus, and Peter Daszak is the intermediary because there was some sort of moratorium on this crap for 3 years. So they intermediaried him and he got to take the money and do it. The point is they're doing this everywhere. They're doing this all over the world with multiple viruses, not just SARS-CoV-2 in Wuhan. Wuhan is one laboratory. And what we're going to look at when we go patron only on Subscribestar and on Patreon are all the BSL-4 labs around the world where they're also doing gain-of-function research. And we're going to look at hot or not. And we're going to look at Japan, and we're going to look at who's hot, who's not. But at the end of the day, the question is, if we hired Wuhan to do the work and we paid them for it, isn't that kind of like buying the fishing rod from Walmart? I mean, how is it their problem if I buy a bike for my kid from Walmart that's made in China, my kid crashes the bike, I get to sue the Chinese company that made the bike? What the hell? No, it doesn't work like that. If we paid them to make the virus and then the virus got out one way or another, but we funded it, how the hell is that the Chinese's fault?
Why are we looking at Japan?
They're talking about some new variant in Japan.
Really? No, the
yeah.
Olympics. You're right. No one can watch it.
Yeah, so
And
right, there's no more spectators.
Smoke
no more
pot,
spectators.
You can't be in it, but if you want to burn the American flag, go right ahead.
That's cool. Oh, that's cool. I think we're out of time. We got to go over to Patreon and Subscribestar. But we're going to do hot or not. We're going to look at a whole bunch of locations because now Asia's on fire. Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. It's not good. Russia, not good. But there's other places where we're already at depletion of susceptibles, it appears. So we're going to look at that. We're going to get into Koch's postulate and deep stuff.
Yeah. This issue with smoking weed and being on the Olympic team, it came up, I don't know if I ever told you this, John, but 21st Century 3D did the first ever 3D stuff for ESPN. And we did the X Games in 3D.
Yeah.
And there was somebody there who got in trouble at the Olympics for smoking pot. And I remember having the thought that if you can be in the Olympics and win while you're stoned, you're pretty good. They should leave you alone.
Seth Rogen this week said, if weed made you fast, I'd be Flojo.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. If you're going to sit around and play PlayStation, that maybe is an advantage. But for the Olympics, I don't see how it helps. Yeah. Anyway, John, we'll be back in just a few minutes for our viewer sponsors on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Sponsors on Subscribestar, whether for Crowdsource the Truth or any of the other co-hosts, are enjoying the amazingly awesome Crowdsource the Truth video server, which cannot be blocked, bounced, all that kind of stuff through the traditional methods that are being used on social media. Had a great conversation with Larry Klayman and my attorney for multimedia system design, John Snyder. We were speaking last night about Donald Trump's social media lawsuit against Twitter. And, I'll tell you, I've been looking around at all the other, Hannity and Sean Spicer. People were interviewing the dope from Dershowitz from Harvard. And it was like, oh, you think he's a dope? He's a Harvard professor. What he said about this lawsuit indicated to me that he either didn't read it or is once again trying to force a faulty legal theory down people's throats for some very probably social engineering type purpose. But if people want to see the very best legal analysis of Donald Trump's Twitter lawsuit, check it out on Crowdsource the Truth 5. We'll be back in just a few minutes for the viewer sponsors on Subscribe Star and Patreon. Can't thank you guys enough.